Greetings everyone, once again it's Motamonidi sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Zulula 100, the only teacher. And here the teaching I will share is going to be regarding the origin of race, because there's a lot of misconception out there, a lot of theories, a lot of opinion that is being spread out, a lot of lies. So here we shall dive into the current classic of the Bible to show, to demonstrate where do race come from, the races, where is the origin of black people, the origin of white people, and so on. So for that, like I've mentioned, we shall go into the current classic of the Bible. Now, here we start with, we go in Origin chapter 1, verse 26. It says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." So here you're told in the current classic of the Bible that God said, let us make mankind in our image. So which image was it? In our likeness. Which likeness was it? Which color was it? In Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 in the King James Bible, it says, then God said, let us make man. So there's man and then there's mankind. There's a difference between man and humanity and mankind. When you type man, humanity, they're going to say, oh, it's man and so on. No. The man are the bateau. And humanity, you have to understand, that's another race, the other races. In our image, after our likeness. And you're told here, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And in Genesis 2 verse 6, but stream came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. So you're told here in Genesis 2 verse 6 that stream came up from the earth and watered the surface of the ground, because it was one surface, it was the continent. And so that means the version that will say later on, because when we go in Genesis 2 verse 7 in contemporary English version, it says, the Lord God took some soil from the ground and made a man. Some soil. Which type of soil was used? Because some version will say dust. But the notion of dust is disproven in Genesis chapter 2 verse 6, because you're told that water came up and watered the whole surface of the ground. So when you water the surface of the ground, it's no longer dust. Now it's the soil. It's muddy. And then when we go in Dual Rhyme Bible, you're told, and the Lord God formed man of the slim of the earth. So here you're shown, you're told the type of soil that was used to create, to form the first man. And it was the slim, it was the silt. What is the slim? That's why when we go here in, when we go in regarding the origin of the slim, of that word, it says, Old English slim of Germanic origin related to Dutch slime and German schlim, mucus, slime, Latin limus, mud, Greek limnus, marsh, mud, silt. So the slim is the silt, and you're told it's muddy, so it's water. That's the type of soil. And the flood of the Nile, here it says, which took place every summer and brought the black silt to the cultivation of its bank, remained for a long time an unexplained phenomenon. And here they claim that it is from this black slim that comes the ancient name of Egypt, Kemet, which means the black earth. So the slim, the silt, it's black. So the first man was formed with the earth, the black earth. So the first man is black. Now, and when we go in Genesis chapter 3 verse 7, because that's the origin of the black race. That's where black people come from, because there's many misconceptions. In Genesis chapter 3 verse 7, Old Man Christian Standard Bible says, then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. And loincloth, the origin of loincloth is from Africa, is from black people. International version As a result, they both understood that were what they had done, and they became aware. So that's here the people they call Adam and Eve in the current class of the Bible, but it's the first man and the first woman. And it says, as a result, they were both understood that what they had done, and they became aware, and they were naked. So they sewed fig leaf together and made loincloths for themselves. So, like I've mentioned, like even the scientists, they agree that the origin of man is from Africa. So if the origin of man is from Africa, even the Bible confirms that. So any people that will come up with other theories, other opinion, you're completely mistaken. So the first man and the first woman, they were both black. That's the origin of the black race. And you're told that they were formed in the likeness, in the image of God in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And I've already shared a teaching regarding that the angels are black. So the spiritual entities known as the angels, they are also black. So Adam and Eve, you're told here, well, Adam, the first man, he was made in their image. He was also black. And the first woman came from him. So she was also black. So when they say, let us make mankind in our image, if God says, let us make man in our image, and that man is black, that means God is black. You may disagree, you may agree, that's your own issue. Now, and then the first man and the first woman, they were told to multiply. That's why when we go in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, let me just move this here. Okay. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, it says in the New Living Translation, then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. So the first man and the first woman, who were both black, were told to multiply. That means their children will also be black. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals and scurry along the ground. And Genesis chapter 5, verse 3 says in the King James Bible, and Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own image, in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. So you're told that Seth was in the own image and in the own likeness of Adam. So that means he was also black. So, and in Genesis chapter 5, verse 4, it says in the English Standard Version, the days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So you have to understand those sons and daughters were all black people. So where do the other race come from? So the black race is the older race on earth. Let not any other person tell you otherwise. So now we go in the origin, regarding the origin of race. He says, we go in Genesis chapter 6. Genesis 6, he says, verse 1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, of all which they chose. Verse 3. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, he says here in the verse 4. And also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. So, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, you're told that when men began to multiply. What does that mean? Because they were told in Genesis to multiply and to fill the earth. That was told to the first man and the first woman, who were black. And then they began to multiply, so they had sons and daughters. And those sons and daughters also multiplied. So you're told here, when it came to pass, when men began to multiply, those are men, those are the Batu, those are black people. And they were alone on the earth, meaning they were the only race. Began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. And then in verse 2, you're told that the sons of God, who are the sons of God? Those are no longer men. The sons of God, you have to understand, those are the fallen angels. Because when we go in Job chapter 15, verse 17, he says, "Listen to me, and I will inform you. I will describe what I have seen." Verse 18, "What was declared by wise men and was not concealed from their fathers, to whom alone the land was given, when no foreigner passed among them." To whom alone the land was given, those are black people. Verse 19, in the King James Bible, "Unto whom alone the earth was given, and no strangers passed among them." New Living Translation, "From those to whom the land was given long before any foreigners arrived." And in Genesis 6, verse 2, you're told those are the arrival. That's the arrival of the foreigners, of the strangers, of the other race. Now, when we go back here in verse 2 of Genesis, verse 2, chapter 6, verse 2, that the sons of God, so the sons of God, those are the fallen angels. That's why when we go in the Good News translation, it says, "Some of the heavenly beings saw that these young women were beautiful." So the heavenly beings, those are the sons of God. Genesis 6, verse 2, International Standard Version, it says, "Some divine beings noticed how attractive human women were." And here it says human women, but you have to understand those are the descendant of men. How attractive human women were. So they took wives from themselves from a selection that pleased them. So those heavenly beings, the divine beings, those are the sons of God. And you have to understand those are the fallen angels, not the heavenly beings that are still in the service of God. No. Cosmogony chapter 6 verse 4 in Fabre d'Olivet, that's another translation. It says, "At that time, Nephilim, chosen among people, noble one, existed on earth. They originated from the combination of spiritual emanation with sensual forms after the emanation of Elohim fertilized the bodily offspring of the universal Adam. These were the famous Goborim, these heroes, these illustrious Hyperborean, whose names were so famous in the midst of time." And in Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 in the Berean Standard Bible, it says, "The Nephilim were on earth in those days." So the Nephilim, that's another race, were on earth on those days, and they also called them the giants. In when we go in the King James Bible, it says there were giants in the earth in those days. So they were the giants. And who are the giants? Who are the Nephilim? Because there's many categories. But before diving into the categories, we go in Numbers chapter 13 verse 33 says in the Contemporary English Version, "In fact, we saw the Nephilim, who are the ancestors of the Anakim." And you're told here they were They were so big that we felt as small as grasshoppers. So the origin of the white race is from the fallen angels who came onto earth and had relations with the daughters of men. Meaning, and it was not all the daughters, but it was a select group. It was from the lineage, you have to understand, of Cain. Now, and that's the origin of the white race. And then after that, there was mixing, and that's where the other race also came. So that's the origin of the other race. And the white race, they are also part of the Nephilim. They are also the Nephilim. And that's why, what is the definition of the Nephilim? We go in Nephilim definition. It says, the Nephilim, the product of the sons of God mingling with the daughters of Adam, the great biblical giant, the fallen ones, the Rephaim, the dead one. So the Nephilim, you have to understand, they are a disgraced race. Though that's the origin of the other race, that's the origin of the Nephilim. That's the origin of the white race. So here, just for you to see the illustration a little bit better. So you have to understand that those fallen angels, they also had relations. They also slept with the animals. That's why, and the descendant, those are the so-called demons. That's why you have the tales of the so-called mermaids, the siren, who are semi-men and semi-animals. You have the minotaur, centaurs, so semi-men, semi-animals. You see, they are also the Nephilim, but because the Nephilim is basically the offspring of the fallen angels. That's who they are. That's the Nephilim. So here let's go into the book of Secret of Enoch. It says, when we go in the book of Secret of Enoch, chapter 18, verse 1 to 7, it says, and they said to me, these are the Gregory, who with their prince Satanael have rejected the Lord of light. And after them are those who are kept in great darkness in the second heaven. And three of them, here says three of them, have gone down on the land from the Lord's throne at Emron's place and transgressed their vows on the shoulder of El Emron, and saw the daughters of men how they were, and took themselves wives, and corrupted the earth with their action, which at all time of their age have made anarchy and miscegenation. So they came on earth, and they basically corrupted the earth with anarchy and miscegenation. Miscegenation is mixing, coupling of different race. And the giants are born of them, and men of grandeur and great hostility. So in the beginning of the chapter here, you're told that these are the Gregory who with their prince Satanael. So you have to understand, those are the fallen angels who are in the service of Satan, the fallen. And they rejected the Lord of light. So those are the fallen. And after them, who are kept in great darkness. And you're told three of them, but it's not three of them, because there were numerous. There were a lot more. And Bibèl, the authentic Bible, it's more clear, it's with precision. But here in this presentation, in this teaching, in this sharing, it's with the current classic day Bible, the current Bible. So that's the origin of the other race. So like I've mentioned, the Nephilim, there are the Nephilim, which are the descendant, the offspring of the fallen angels with the animals, who gave the demons so they were semi-animals, semi-form of man as well, some of them, and even with the animals in the water. So that's why you have in the water. So that means even with that's why you have the tails of the so-called mermaids and so on, because they basically slept with the animals of the land and also the animals of the water. But they started with the animals of the ocean. So now, so that's a little illustration to show where do white people, the other race, come from. Now, so the fallen angels and the black woman. And so that's according to the current classical day Bible. Now, and you're told in Numbers 13, verse 20, verse 33, 32 and 33, which says, "And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that haten up the inhabitant thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great statures. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshopper, so we were in their sight." So, you're told that the Nephilim, they were also on earth even after the flood. That's why in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, you're told, there were giants in the earth in those days and also after that. So there were Nephilim on earth even after that period. So that's the other race. Now, that's the origin of race. That's the origin of the white race. Now, if you are listening to the message and maybe you are another race, this message should not trouble you. This is to put things back in order, to spread the truth, because there's many misconceptions, like I've mentioned, because there are many black people out there who don't know their origin, and even the so-called Hebrew Israelite the black Hebrew Israelites, they will claim, no, the white race come from Edom, they are the Edomites. No, you are completely mistaken. White people don't come from Edom, because Edom is the twin brother of Jacob. And in their understanding, in their comprehension, they'll say, no, Jacob was black, Edom was white. But they were twin brothers. That means if you're claiming that's the fact, that means black people are brothers of the white people. That means they're your brother. So why are you then, when they do their presentation, well, why are you bashing them if they are your twin brothers? You see? Edom, they are black. The Edomites are black because Edom and Jacob, they were twin brother. That means they had the same father, the same mother. Their father and their mother were both black. Jacob was black, and Edom, Esau was also black. That's not the origin of white people or black people. No. The origin of white people of the other race is in Genesis chapter 6, like I've shown. Those are the Nephilim. Okay, we have to put things back in order. Now, like I've mentioned, if you are white or maybe you are another race, this message should not trouble you, because here we are in the time of grace. So even though you're saying, well, you may think, well, if that's my origin, what do I do? Can I still listen? Can I still be saved? Can I still continue listening to the message? Can I continue to learn the verb, the word? We are, like I've mentioned, in the time of grace. So all those who love justice, who like the truth, they are welcome. Those who are sincere, those who truly come for the truth, for justice, for the word. So that was the message regarding the origin of race. And that was in the Current Classical Day Bible. And here again for you to see. And that was the message. All glory be to Loba, the only and unique creator.